Okay, shalom everyone. It's been very, very tumultuous today for many reasons. Um, I'm going to give a little bit of a presentation, and then it's Avi Lipkin's message, but then I'm going to chop it into pieces and give you the real update. But keeping in mind what I had said, so it should be okay. When you look back at Israel's history over the last 100 years, or actually from 1917, um, England was at war with Germany, and Chaim Weizmann, who eventually became president of Israel, developed an alternative to dynamite, artificial dynamite, instead of nitroglycerin. And basically, this Jewish leader in the community saved Britain from a German victory. And it seems as a result, the British government looked favorably upon the creation of a Jewish homeland known as the Balfour Declaration. And, they talked the talk, but they didn't walk the walk. And eventually, the British chopped what is today the Kingdom of Jordan and made it an independent kingdom in order to pacify the Saudi tribes. You had the Saudis and you had the Hashemites. So Israel lost two-thirds of what was then the Mandate of Palestine in 1922. And then later, with the Nazis, as you know, the British, the Americans, the Canadians, and other Anglos, to which I belong, the Anglo group, these leaders decided not to allow Jewish refugees from Nazi Europe to escape. And so they died, they perished in the Holocaust. And that leads me to where Avi Lipkin comes in. In April 1991, I had the opportunity to speak to the Dallas Council on World Affairs in Dallas. And this is a very, very well-heeled group of oil-rich bank and ranch people, the richest people in Texas. And to make a short story long, uh, they said they got the wrong person. They thought I was chief of staff of the Israeli army, and because the chief of staff was A. Lipkin, and I was A. Lipkin, so they thought I was the chief of staff. They were thinking they got Amnon Lipkin, Shachak. But for people from Texas, Amnon, Avi, it's all the same. And the second thing was I was invited to speak right after the holiday of Purim. And as you all know, Purim is the holiday in which Achashverosh was a drunk, and Boris Yeltsin had been scheduled to speak at the Dallas Council, and he got drunk. And so they had to send him home to Russia to a sanitarium. And so they thought at the Dallas Council that I would be the perfect replacement for Boris Yeltsin. And actually, I gave what they considered to be a very good lecture, and they invited me back. Anyway, that's all this is technicalities. I gave them an Israeli army spokesman message, which actually they appreciated very much. But then when the questions and answers came, um, they still thought that I was the chief of staff of the Israeli army. And they said to me, "We want you to take a message back to Prime Minister Shamir, for whom I worked actually in 1989, 1990." And they said, that Israel might have demands militarily, but quote unquote, we won't let the Jews get in the way of our oil supplies, unquote. At that time, President George Herbert Walker Bush was president, a Republican, an anti-Semite, basically. And his father was actually pro-Nazi in World War II. And so it's not time to bash the Democrats this time. And they said, "Avi, we want you to go back to your Prime Minister, Shamir, and tell him that Israel is not going to give back 92 or 93% of the land. You're going to give 100% of the land back to the Arabs. And the second thing, we don't care about the Jewish people. We're not going to let you come in the way of our oil supplies. So this was in April 1991. Israel at that time, of course, was a much weaker country, a much smaller country. Our population basically was much less. It was really about 3 million, going up to 4 million. And I felt very saddened that the United States was, this was the leadership of the United States, was turning on Israel because of oil, because of wealth. And I went back to Shamir and I told him these things. Anyway, fast forward to where we are today. We have a new situation, and now I will bash the Protestants, not the Protestants, bash the Democrats a little, excuse me. And President Trump inherited a horrible mess economically from Biden and from the Democrats. And don't forget, it's not just Biden, it's Obama, it's Clinton. This is decades of misrule by the Democrats. And so President Trump has a job. It's kind of like catching a big rock thrown from 120 floors and you're on the ground floor. You got to stop the rock before it destroys. America financially has made a tremendous comeback in the last 8 months, thanks to President Trump. And I think it's fair for me to say that President Trump is the greatest president in the history of the United States. He has managed, from what I understand, to receive about $17 trillion to date, mostly from the Arabs. And I don't know if that includes the $600 million 747 that was supposed to be given to him. But to make it, again, a short story long, the Arabs can withdraw their influence. They can withdraw their investments in the United States and bring the whole thing crashing down. America still is not out of the mud, which was created by the Democrats. President Trump has a very, very unenviable job ahead of him. I don't know. I mean, I voted for Trump 3 times with absentee ballot from Israel. My sons, all our friends voted for President Trump. And he is the best thing to happen to Israel. So now we have a problem. And the problem is not oil. The problem is money, it's cash. If I remember correctly, Steve Witkoff got $600 million from I'm having a senior moment. What's the name of that terrible country? A little country of 300,000 people that gives all this money to Hamas. Somebody answer me.
Qatar.
Qatar, thank you, darling. So if Qatar gave him $600 million, they own him. Everybody in Israel knows this, that Witkoff is not in good faith. Witkoff is doing what the Qataris tell him to do. You know, I have to tell you a little story. Once I was on an El Al flight to New York, and you know what? I've gotten old. What does it mean I've gotten old? When I get on a plane to the States, leave me alone. I want to sleep. I get on the plane and I'm falling asleep, and about 3-4 rows in front of me is the exit door. And I hear people yelling, and they wake me. And then I hear some ultra-Orthodox guy with a black hat and the side curls, and he's saying how wonderful Saudi Arabia is. And we all know what Saudi Arabia is. They turned this journalist, Khashoggi, into Kentucky Fried Chicken. They chopped him up and threw him in acid. That's crazy. And even though, the Democrats decided to move against Saudi Arabia, um, I think they did the right thing. If I were president of the United States and they took somebody, from the opposition and threw him into acid, I'd probably be against Saudi Arabia also. But anyway, this ultra-Orthodox guy on the LL plane is saying that, oh, he goes to Saudi Arabia all the time and he does real estate with them. Real estate means probably selling properties in Belgium because he was from Belgium. And you have a lot of people in Europe, Jewish, Christian, whatever, going to Saudi Arabia to do the bidding of the Saudis, to sell lands to the Saudis. And he said, I do great business with them. The only strange thing he said to me is that when they prepare the money to pay me, they make me swear, okay, La Allah illa Allah wa Muhammad Rasul Allah. There is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is his prophet. Now, I don't know if this ultra-Orthodox guy knew what he was talking about, but he basically converted to Islam by saying that. You see, you want to become a Christian, they dunk you in a baptism. You want to become a Muslim, all you have to do is say, La Allah illa Allah wa Muhammad Rasul Allah. And he said it, he always says it to get his money. However, if the Muslims then say, okay, you are a Muslim now, come pray with us in the mosque, and you say no, they're going to make you Kentucky Fried Chicken. So the Muslims are using their money to bribe anyone and everyone they can. And this includes top politicians in America. This is not just universities. And I warned in 1999, I wrote a book called Christian Revival for Israel's Survival, where I said that the Muslims are using the universities with a long-term plan after decades to convert them to Islam, or at least cause them to sabotage Judeo-Christian civilization and democracy in America. I have to tell you, I miss you guys very much. I was in Texas just about 3 months ago, and I was in a meeting at a private home, and everyone who's listening to me now knows exactly whose home it was. I don't want to say it on the Zoom, but if you want, after the Zoom off the air, I'll tell you who it was. And I came to give my message, and then there was a lady, Christian lady, who came, and she started telling about all the politicians in Texas are bribed by Qatar. Every last one of them. All the politicians in Texas are bribed by Qatar. I always remember the Texas Rangers. I'm not talking about the baseball team. I'm talking about the galloping in with their horses and saving everyone. There is no more Texas Rangers, at least when it comes to Islam. Coming 35 years to the United States to speak in churches and home groups, I know just exactly how insidious this Islamic bribery is. And you know what? We shouldn't be surprised. Israeli generals, the ones who are attacking Netanyahu, are all bribed by Qatar. Unbelievable. Anyone who has any kind of connection to the prime minister is bribed. So why should we not see Witkoff as bribed? Or Kushner? They're all bribed. They make millions and millions, maybe billions of dollars working with Qatar and all these other Arab countries, Saudi Arabia and others. They're sold out. And so when Qatar snaps the whip, everyone in Washington or Texas or wherever, they dance to the tune of Qatar. And we have Israelis, top leaders in the Israeli, not the government, the opposition primarily, those generals who attack Netanyahu, they're all dancing to the tune of Qatar. They don't believe in Judaism, they don't believe in Christianity, they believe in the money they're getting from Qatar. What I'm saying is terrible. And nobody dares to get up to say the word bribery. What does it say in the Bible? It says bribery blinds the wise, distorts the judgments of the judges. So now we have been put into a honey trap. Honey trap has another meaning also, which I won't talk about, but honey trap in this instance is our government and our leaders and our military. Everyone is doing exactly what the United States is telling them to do because we have the best president we ever had. This is the honey trap. We have a president who overturned stupid Biden decision to withhold weapons that we needed. There has never been a president like President Trump. But President Trump has an inheritance from the Democrats of a dead America. That's what Trump said. America was a dead country till he came in. And Trump now is in the process of reviving, resuscitating the United States, which is coming out of its death throes because of the Democrats. And let me tell you, Rachel and I pray every day for President Trump. We pray every day for Netanyahu because there's some very evil people who want both of them dead. But on the other hand, President Trump has to do what his advisors tell him. President Trump, if he makes any mistake in the eyes of Qatar and the other Arab countries, they can bring the whole American economy crashing like a house of cards. And I'm sure Netanyahu is smart enough to know this. Now, on the other hand, we have another problem, and that is we have an agreement that Hamas never signed. Hamas killed 2 of our soldiers, very seriously injured more. I'm not saying that Netanyahu is not afraid of new elections, but people like Ben-Gvir and Smotrich are saying, we told you so, that Hamas is not somebody you can negotiate with. Hamas has to be destroyed. And meanwhile, Turkey and Egypt are preparing for war with Israel. And Turkey and Egypt have said that if Israel resumes the war against Hamas or completes the war, there's going to be a war with Egypt and Turkey. I just finished my book about Lepanto II and Armageddon. That's part of the direction we're going in. So I don't know what Netanyahu really should do. Netanyahu, any prime minister of Israel, or any president of the United States knows things which the common citizens don't know. So there is fear in Washington that Israel is going to, as we say in Hebrew, the landlord has gone crazy. Landlord has gone crazy going into, we have to finish off Hamas. I have no doubt we have to finish off Hamas. And don't forget, when President Biden was saying to Israel, don't go into Gaza, we went in. Don't go into Rafah, we went in. Don't go into Shifa Hospital, we went in. Everything we did afterwards, they said we did the right thing. Don't go into Lebanon. Jeepers creepers, where did you get the beepers? We did that too. We destroyed, America destroyed Soleimani, we destroyed Nasrallah. So you have all these leaders being destroyed, enemy leaders. Iran got kicked, you know where. Now we're seeing in the news today that Iran is going full steam ahead with its nuclear program. Like nothing happened. And they're making fun of Trump. Everyone's making fun of Trump. So if you ask me, why is Vice President Vance here? Why are Witkoff and Kirshner here? Why is the Egyptian intelligence commander here? Egyptian intelligence commander is here. So obviously, there's something very deep behind the scenes that we're not hearing. And I think one of the things is Iran. Iran Many times, people, military shoots a missile at a building to bring it down, and the first missile doesn't work. I mean, it weakens the building. It needs a second missile to bring the whole thing crashing down. Then you have the Houthis in Yemen. The Houthis are threatening maritime navigation throughout that area. The port of Eilat has been closed for 2 years. No ships can go in or out of Eilat because of the Houthis. So obviously, we have to take care of Iran a second time. We have to take care of the Houthis, I would say, preferably with the US and Britain. Oh, by the way, there was a new thing in the news today about England. England very soon will be the first Muslim country to have nuclear weapons. England! Forget about Jesus Christ. England is a Muslim country now. You don't have a leadership. Rachel says, well, like a pendulum swinging back. It'll be swinging back to the right. We'll see. I'm very afraid of people who can push that button with nuclear weapons. I have to give you another story. And those of you who know me very well, the last 35 years, I was preaching once in the Pacific Northwest. And a pastor heard me and said, I have to tell you a story, but we'll do this at lunchtime. Most of my most interesting pieces of information come from the restaurant at lunchtime after I speak in the church that morning. And he says to me, he was a sailor in the submarine fleet. He's just outside of Seattle. And he said that once he was on the bridge with the captain, and these atomic submarines, the bridge is very small. There's room for 2 people, the captain and a sailor. It was a beautiful day. And out of nowhere comes this unbelievable tidal wave. And there was no time to get down the ladder and close the hatch. And so the sailor, who's now a pastor, said to the captain, you hold on here and I will lie down with my body over the hatch so that the seawater will not come into the submarine and cause the fumes from the batteries, which are right under this ladder. And he got a medal for saving the ship. The ship flipped a few times because of the tidal wave. And the sailor, this pastor, became a pastor, saved the submarine. And the commander said, I'm giving you a medal. And by the way, I'm going to consider you for officer training. Terrific. So before being finally accepted for the officer training, the captain says to him, tell me, we have something called the loyalty exam. And you have to pass the loyalty exam. He said, okay, what's the loyalty exam? I'm loyal. He said, well, what would happen if you were captain of this submarine and you got an order from Washington to launch a nuclear rocket at Tel Aviv? What would you do? Would you launch the rocket? Can you believe it? What kind of a question? And so the sailor said, he started laughing. So the captain of the submarine said, why are you laughing? He said, well, because firstly, I'm a Christian and I believe in the Bible. And the Bible says that something like that would never happen to Israel. And secondly, I would not want to be on that submarine if I got an order like that, because God would destroy the submarine sovereignly. They threw him out of the Navy. And the captain of the submarine, when he retired, became a very senior officer in the US Navy. He converted to Islam, and he's now CEO of a Saudi company. And this guy could push a button and destroy Israel. And there are other Muslims. Rachel and I found many Muslims who are now senior officers in the US military. So this idea of bribery and also jihadic faith and destruction of Israel is something that the U.S. Department of Defense has to deal with. But I'm sure that Qatar knows who these commanders are, who might judge the traitors. So after what I went, and all this is in my books. So all of this I'm following with great fear because the Turks are preparing for war with Israel. All they want is an excuse. And if we go into that final battle with Hamas, which we can finish off in 2 weeks, the whole thing will be over in 2 weeks. But Egypt has threatened a war with Israel. Turkey has threatened a war with Israel. And we are after 2 years of horrible war. So I ask all of you, really pray for Israel, pray for our soldiers, pray for America, because America is sliding downhill rapidly. It's getting the money it needs to save the economy, but it's sliding downhill with the behavior of the people who are bribed. All of these things go together. Personally, I have no doubt that Israel will always emerge victorious, but it is a scary thing for all of us. We've had so many burials of our soldiers and innocent civilians who died in a horrible manner with the Hamas. On the other hand, Lebanon, the Hezbollah is rising up again, and the Lebanese government is too afraid to do anything. America is backing the Lebanese government in the hope that we will have an Abraham Accord. But there will be no Abraham Accord unless Hezbollah disarms. We will have no peace in Gaza unless Hamas disarms. We'll have no peace with Iran unless Iran disarms. Saudi. Saudi is another country. By the way, in my book, my third book, 1990, it was written in 2003, the Chinese provided nuclear missiles, Dongfeng missiles for Saudi Arabia. They're at the Al Salail oasis in Saudi. So the Saudis already have nuclear weapons. I don't know what's going on. Really, I have more questions than I have answers. And the Houthis in Yemen are blocking maritime navigation. What are you going to do about that? I've been hearing, maybe it really has nothing to do with Israel, but maybe it does. The Emirates have their people. Egypt has its people in Sudan, and they're mining and stealing gold from the people of Sudan. Nobody's saying anything. The U.S. State Department helped to overthrow Sharifa Hussein, who was the Prime Minister of Bangladesh. And the State Department backed the fanatic ISIS people to take over. Who's in Syria now? Fanatic ISIS people. So the U.S. is backing Pakistan and Turkey and Islamic Bangladesh, and they passed a death sentence on Sharifa Hussein, who was democratically elected and ruling Bangladesh for 17 years. So I'm watching all these different fronts, all these different places, and Pakistan has said that if Israel attacks Gaza, Pakistan will launch nuclear weapons at Israel. So I don't know. I don't know what President Trump is going to do. President Trump is also between a rock and a hard place. So these are things that I'm watching very closely every day on the internet. I'm getting reports from India and from Bangladesh and other countries. There's a war taking place now, believe it or not, between the Taliban in Afghanistan as opposed to the Pakistanis. America is backing the Pakistanis, and China is backing, well, did I get this wrong? Maybe America is backing the Taliban. America's backing the Taliban, and China is backing the Pakistanis. Chinese also have nuclear weapons. So the situation is like a simmering volcano, like a super volcano at Yellowstone Park. So meanwhile, things are still okay. But I think if the Egyptian intelligence commander is here in Israel now, uh, I think we're not talking about Gaza. I think we're talking about Iran and the Houthis in Yemen, because the Houthis have also destroyed the maritime navigation going through the Suez Canal. This is harming Egypt. Questions? Let's have some fun. I know Laurie always has the first question.
It's hard to even know what to ask. Everything just seems so chaotic.
Very chaotic. And I don't have to repeat that Europe is converting to Islam. Christianity is being defeated by Islam. You know what? You remember, you guys, I have a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland for hate speech against Islam. Well, there are 2 Catholic priests. I got this today. I don't know if I sent it to you or not. 2 Catholic priests got a 3-year jail sentence, but it was defeated in court. I got a 3-year jail sentence in Switzerland for hate speech. These Catholic priests they're finally acquitted. But Islam is overrunning Spain. You know, my specialty is the Reconquista. Reconquista is the reconquest of Spain by the Catholics against the Muslims. But now, because of liberal progressive governments, they're winning again. The Muslims are taking over Spain and Portugal. So, you know, when I was a young kid in college studying Sovietology and Latin American and Spanish studies, I thought, what a useless subject. What are the useless subjects I was studying? Because there's no more Soviet Union and Europe supposedly is Christian. No, Islam is taking over everywhere. With the oil money, gold money, petrodollars that the West is giving them for the oil and gas and whatever. And again, we're surrounded. Israel is surrounded by enemies. So pray for President Trump, pray for Netanyahu, pray that God's will be done on earth as in heaven. Because I know we're going to win. But God is not showing us exactly how it's going to happen yet, unless there's a massive Christian revival. My second book is called Christian Revival for Israel's Survival. Sorry, Laurie, I interrupted you.
No, not really. Uh, what's the environment now, the atmosphere with protests against Netanyahu now that the living hostages are released? Has that changed at all?
Well, listen, the hard nut crack brain cases are the same people. But I think they said out of 120 members of Knesset, 10 have shifted over to the Likud. Netanyahu now is at his apex, as epigee, the highest level ever in his political history. They said that he has 66 members of Knesset solidly behind him. By the time of the election in September or maybe earlier, it's going to go up to 70 members of Knesset. And these crazy nutheads on the left who are so blinded by hatred, they're going down, down, down in their public support and in their the support for them in the next Knesset elections. By the way, personally, I have a problem because I was supposed to be coming to the States, and then between the U.S. Embassy, which said to me, you need 2 months for a new passport, and then they said, and also you have to go to the Israeli post office and pay 50 shekels, $15, to get a QR. Now, do you guys know what a QR is? I don't know what a QR is. And so I waited till after I have to go to the post office through the internet and get the QR after I paid the 50 shekels. So yesterday, somebody want to say something? Okay, so yesterday I went to my son's house, to Aaron, He said, "Leave me the papers, I'll do it." Praise God, Aaron is my savior. So he said he's going to mail it into the embassy. And from there, we have an 8 week count. But I lost 2 weeks with the Israeli post office because Aaron was checking their internet and they said website under construction. So my sons and Rachel were saying to me, God does not want you to travel to the States anymore. So, anyways, that's so we're now. I mean, if I get my passport, I go, God willing. But Netanyahu may move the elections up from September to who knows when. Some people said July, some people said June. Netanyahu may think that this is the time to hold the elections because he's at his highest popularity in all these years. Netanyahu brought us tremendous victories. But the point is, after all these victories, all of a sudden Turkey and Egypt are appearing, ready for war with us. So we'll have to see. I don't know where we stand. I think ideally, my plan will be to get my passport around Christmas and then go to the States for 3 months. Because then I have my granddaughter's bat mitzvah in March, and then I have my another granddaughter's marriage in May. And then it'll definitely be 3 months before the elections. Unless we have the elections now. So then I don't travel now. I do the elections, and then after the elections, I travel to the States probably after May so that I can have the summer months to drive and go everywhere. My son Aaron is also in a very precarious position because on the one hand, Lipkin Tours is taking off remarkably. Everyone now is coming to Israel. And Etty has her hands full with all these tours that are coming. So Aaron has to help her, but he's still in the army. They won't let him go because he's so popular there. But to answer your question in one sentence, Lori, the left is getting weaker and weaker and weaker. And so now we just have to see what Netanyahu decides regarding an election. And then we have to see what response there will be for the Judeo-Christian Bible Bloc Party.
Hi,
Next.
Avi.
Okay, this sounds like Angela.
Yes, it's me. I
Actually,
just,
in proper English, you say it is I.
oh, it is I, darling. Of
Yeah, it's
course, it is
treated like
I.
you're giving me a gift or something. Okay,
Avi, the Emir of Qatar has been sharply criticizing Israel and been accusing it of violating the ceasefire in Gaza without mentioning Hamas and the serious incident in Rafah where two IDF soldiers were killed.
correct.
Right. So, now we've got Egypt, the special envoy from Egypt, meeting with Netanyahu and others. JD Vance, I don't know what they're discussing. But do you think that this is Qatar is behind it? It's a kind of a ruse to pave the way for Turkish and Egyptian troops to go into Gaza as the perceived peacekeeping force? Is that a
Well,
possibility?
according to the reports today on Channel 14, they said there is absolutely no way that the Egyptian troops and the Turkish troops will be peacekeepers
Yeah,
because these two countries are enemies. I mean,
yeah.
we have peaceful relations with Egypt, but we have no diplomatic relations with Turkey. So why would we let them into Gaza?
Well, inside Turkey, they're kind of saying that.
Well, again, what I'm saying is Turk, at least Egypt is let's say 50-50.
Yeah,
Okay. Now, if the intelligence commander of the Egyptian army is here, it means it's something that involves Egypt.
Mm,
And in my opinion, the war with Yemen and the war with Iran
mm,
are very important on the Egyptian agenda. You know, I have to tell you something. In 2011, during the civil war known as the Arab Spring, uh, Egypt said it was going to send troops to Syria to defend the Sunnis. As you know, the Sunnis lost, at least until now. And the Egyptians were going to fight the Shiites. And Iran said, if you send Sunni Egyptian troops to fight the Shiites, we're going to blow up the Aswan Dam.
mm.
Now, if you blow up the Aswan Dam, Egypt gets flushed down the toilet. In other words, down the Nile River into the Mediterranean. No more Egypt, which is the fulfillment of Ezekiel 29.
Yeah,
I recommend to everyone to read Ezekiel 29 because it is so clearly described and it has never happened.
yeah,
So the Egyptians, I think, have Israel is not an enemy of Egypt. I don't know what's the matter with the Egyptian leadership. Israel has a peace agreement with Egypt, and we would love to have good relations with Egypt. We are commanded in the Bible to love the Egyptians. I don't know if you know that.
yeah.
The,
Isaiah
the
19
Egyptians
highway.
took care of us. The Egyptians took care of us for 430 years when we were living.
Yeah,
So the problem is not Israel. The problem is Iran. The problem is Yemen. And Yemen is backed by Iran. And you cannot finish these two enemies off without the US.
yeah,
Otherwise, there's no need for the Vice President Vance to come. They can do it by Zoom.
yes. Interesting. And Iran are refusing to inspect us again, aren't they?
Oh, they're going full steam ahead with their nuclear project again.
Yeah. Thank you. Sorry, I have a cold. I'm going to have a cough.
You're
Very
like me.
sweet.
You have to have your coffee.
Yeah, excuse me. Sorry about that.
Soda, coffee. Drink a lot. If you have a cold, drink a lot. Next question. Next victim.
I thought it was interesting that Trump suggested that a pardon should be uh, in effect for Netanyahu.
Could you repeat that again, please?
Oh, I thought it was interesting that Trump suggested Netanyahu should be pardoned. They're doing it for this trial, this show trial.
When he was in the Knesset.
Yeah,
See, the problem is the president has his own baggage. The president refused to give testimony in 1990. He had something about financing and illegal stuff. And he was invited to the court to give his testimony, and he pleaded the fifth. So there's something going on with the president that the Supreme Court is saying if you give him a pardon, we're going to bring back 1990 again. Corruption. You know what? I don't have a police file. I'm not guilty of bribery. I'm not guilty of stealing. I'm not guilty of killing anyone. But I promise you, if and when I become elected to the Knesset with the Judeo-Christian Bible Bloc Party, they'll cook something up and then fight them in the courts for 10, 15, 20 years. And then they say, oops, sorry, we made a mistake. But meanwhile, they destroyed your life. I don't know how it is in the States. Maybe it's the same, but that's the way it is in Israel. You know, we had a story. We have a story about a high-ranking officer, Brigadier General. His name is Oren Solomon. Oren Solomon. And he's not Likud, he's from a kibbutz. He's a left-wing guy. And he was asked to do a report on the war in one of the battles. And he did a report, he did his job. And everyone attacked him. And for 6 months, he was under investigation because he simply told the truth. And then finally, they dropped all the charges because he was clean. He didn't do anything. But they made things very difficult for him. You heard of Ron Dermer, the Israeli ambassador in Washington? Ron Dermer is attacked all in the media and by individuals. They have demonstrations outside of his house every night in Tel Aviv. They're wrecking his family's life. That's what the left does. And he quit. So now Netanyahu is begging him not to quit. We need him too much. But the left is saying he's worthless. He's a zero.
Avi, this is Elizabeth. How are you?
Hi, sweetie. What's
Hi.
going on? What's going on?
Okay.
Should I say Big Spring or Odessa?
Well, I live in Midland, but I go to church in
Midland.
Big Spring.
Okay. Same
So
difference.
we go to Big Spring for services.
Good for you.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, why is it that they keep reporting that a large portion of the Jewish population in New York City are voting and supporting that Mamdani? Have you heard that or anything on that? Because they're really pushing it, and with the
Well,
Jewish community.
okay. What I've been following over the last 100 years, I mean, I'm not 100 years old, but I'm looking at the sociology of the Jews. Sociology of the Jews is that 66% of the Jews vote Democrat and 33% vote Republican. The 66%, a big portion of them are in New York City. And you have to remember, we were so beaten and battered by Christian nationalism in Europe that when the Jews finally made it to America, they thought incorrectly that the Christians of America, the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants, are the same as the Russian Orthodox and the Catholics and the German Lutherans. And so, you know, these Jews never stepped into a church in America because they thought, oh, the steeple with a cross on it, it's the same evil people like Europe. And it's not the case. I know because I've been in 1,000 churches, for heaven's sakes. And one of the things I say in the churches is that the Jews must go to church on Sunday in order to get to learn who the Christians in America are. The Jews have it in their mind that the Christians in America are the same as the Christians in Europe, nationalist and anti-Semitic, and so they're against anti-Semitism. But the truth is that the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants love the Jews in America. They follow the Bible and it says follow the Jews. It says in Zechariah 8:23 that 10 men of all nations will grab a hold of the tzitzit, of the fringes of the prayer shawl of the Jew, and say, we will go with you because we know the Lord is with you. But if Jews do not know who the Christians in America are, they're going to vote against anything that might be Christian or Republican. So Mamdani is a minority, and the Jews vote for the minority. And don't forget, Mamdani, as a Muslim, guess what? We were allies with the Muslims in Spain for 700 years. So they're Jews simply who are so grossly ignorant that they vote for the Muslim.
That's awful.
It's crazy,
It is crazy.
completely crazy.
Well,
It's
just
like it's like the yellow dog Democrats. You get a yellow dog, the Democrats will vote for him.
yeah.
But you know, I want to tell you something. I don't know who's going to win. Will Mamdani win or will somebody else win? But no matter who wins, the Jews are going to get slaughtered. They're going to get slaughtered in New York. They're going to get slaughtered in other places in the United States. Because the word on the street is the blacks have to, you know, I'm saying the anti-Semite blacks are saying that the blacks have to be armed and ready to fight the Jews and to fight the Christians. So you have Antifa, you have the Democrats, you have Black Lives Matter, you have three groups that are completely crazy. And you've got the Muslims. You know, I told you during my last trip, when I left you guys in Texas and I flew to New York to Kennedy, and then I went to Susan's group and Debbie Mitchell's group. And anyway, I stayed in, I don't know how it happened. It was maybe a big mistake, but God has a reason for mistakes also. I stayed in this really, it was a clean hotel, but it was in the middle of a Muslim neighborhood just to the south of on the waterfront of Kennedy Airport. And I thought I was in Egypt because everyone was Egyptian. I had a great time because I was walking around from store to store speaking in Arabic to everyone. They looked at this crazy guy with white hair like me, blue eyes, talking Egyptian Arabic. And they were laughing. I mean, they couldn't believe it. I said, my wife, I'm American. My wife, I didn't say I was Israeli. I said, I'm American. I took my kippah off. I'm American. My wife is Egyptian, and she cooks mulukhia. They loved me. But everywhere I went, people were either black or they were from Arab countries. And Mamdani is going to get all those votes.
Yeah,
Listen, Christianity, unless something happens like a miracle, Christianity is a sinking ship in America. And so goes New York, so goes all of the United States, unless there's a miracle. Sorry to ruin your day, my dear.
oh, we know what's coming. I mean, we know what's coming. It's just you don't want to hear it, but we know what's coming, and uh, it's it's hard to believe that people will be so easily misled into all of that and accept it. But that even biblically it says that, so we have to stand firm in our belief and faith and just keep on moving forward.
Well, all I can say is maybe God had a reason for me to stay at that hotel in the Arab section there in Brooklyn. And actually, there are quite a few Arab sections in Brooklyn, not just one. All of Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn is Arab. So Mamdani has a base. It could be that the Jews make the difference in him getting elected. But I think I know, for example, the Italian Americans, the Irish Americans, Chinese Americans, these people will not vote Mamdani. I don't give it as a given that he's going to win. By the way, also, very important, very important. A lot of Black Americans have come to the conclusion that the Democrats are no good for them. And a lot of Black Americans say that Trump did so much more for us than Biden or Obama. So, you know, we may, God willing, we may see a miracle. But even if Mamdani loses, the masses of anti-Semites are going to be launched into the streets to kill the Jews. Where I stayed was just a few blocks away from the Jewish neighborhood in Far Rockaway. So, you know, in the end, I always say, look, I look at this. I see a Holocaust coming in America. You have 6 million Jews married to 4 million Christians, and everybody is going to have to come to Israel. Or if God forbid, if anything happens to President Trump, Jews are going to have to flee. How's that for happy news? Maybe that's God's plan to get the Jews to go home. Because if things don't get bad for the Jews, they're never going to leave America, let me tell you. America has been the greatest friend of the Jewish people for 500 years. This is not a laughing matter. And it's not going to go against the Jews because of the white Anglo-Saxon Protestants. It's going to come against the Jews because of anti-Semites and Muslims.
Well,
Pray for President Trump. Pray for
yes.
Israel. Pray for America. Pray for Netanyahu. Don't forget also that we're looking at China. I don't want to say we're looking at Russia. Russia could also make trouble for America, but Russia is in a deep dive. But China, I don't know how much time we have left, Laurie, but I will say that Indonesia is the biggest Muslim country in the world. They have thousands of islands. They have unlimited water supplies. They have beautiful jungles, fertile land. Indonesia wants peace with Israel. They want to be part of the Abraham Accords. We may see this happening. Indonesia is afraid, with their 200 million people or more, of being overrun by China with 1.5 billion. And the Chinese have never forgotten the massacre of 500,000 Chinese in Indonesia in the 1960s. Are we forgetting our history? 500,000 Chinese were slaughtered by the Muslim Indonesians. So they need the United States as a backup, and they need Israel. So if they take in 100,000, 200,000, or even 1 million Palestinians from Gaza, big deal. It's nothing for them. Maybe, President Trump, the art of the deal. This is what he's doing with Indonesia. The problem was that Channel 12 on Israeli TV, which is solidly anti-Netanyahu, prematurely announced the visit of the president of Indonesia. And so he had to cancel the trip because it wasn't time to announce it. Because you do have a lot of Muslims in Indonesia, it's a 50-50 thing that have to be overcome to have relationship with Israel. Any more questions?
Hi, Avi, it's Angela again. I was just wondering if you've heard anything about the creation of a state for Kurdistan, using some land in Syria and Turkey.
Well, I don't know if you heard me speak about this in the past, but
Yeah.
I do believe eventually that Israel, which has been forced into eastern Syria along the border with Jordan
Mm.
to defend the Druze in Suwaida. And
Mm-hmm.
actually, I did a TV interview with TV from Azerbaijan, and they were attacking me, but I have fun with that. They were saying that what is this business about the Druze in Suwaida and Israel's expansionist plans with the Kurds?
Yeah.
And I said to her, listen, I said to her, we've had 2 years of war with 7 countries, and we're tired. All we want is a ceasefire. And so, guess what? We got a ceasefire.
Yeah.
Israel is not in a position right now to help the Kurds get an independent state.
No. Yeah, I was trying to think where I read it. It was in recent discussion it was taking place. But I just wonder if there's anything on these Israeli news about it. But
No, no, no,
I
no.
forget where I read it.
There is nothing, nothing,
Yeah.
nothing in the Israeli news about
Okay.
Kurdistan. And frankly, if you ask me, I would say probably that it would be important for Kurdistan, if they really wanted independence and if the Israelis agreed, would be to send in a force of Kurdish soldiers across the border into Syria and meet us, let's say, halfway, and make a land bridge
Mm.
through eastern Syria. Then the Kurdish Air Force, Kurdish Airlines would be able to take off and fly over Israel directly over the Mediterranean. The problem with that is the Turks want to shut the Mediterranean down to Israel.
Yeah.
So all of this would be part of an Armageddon battle.
Okay.
So Israel at this time is doing everything it can in coordination with the United States not to do that. But if we, as usual, get attacked against our will, it's your guess, as good as mine.
Okay. Thanks, Avi. Thanks.
I got a question. I would like to know, what is your opinion about this so-called peace treaty and how is it going?
Which peace treaty?
Yeah, the peace treaty that's supposed to be with Hamas and Israel. How is that going? What's going on with that?
Well, the Hamas keeps breaking it. They keep shooting at us. They're killing our soldiers.
Mm.
And so, President Trump is trying to keep things cool and calm, but I think there is a fear that it'll crash and that Israel will eventually restart the war with Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
We can finish it in 2 weeks. So why should we let them rearm, regroup, strengthen themselves, and then come back at us with another October 7th type war?
Avi, did you see Laura's question in chat?
That Laura asked.
Did you see that?
Yes. 1 second. A woman on Signal chat group posted a link that Israel controls the U.S. Found that offensive. The links she posts about Israel appeared to come from someone in Lebanon. Yeah, of course, you have the protocols of the elders of Zion, that Israel controls the world economy, and Israel controls. I have to tell you a joke. It's a horrible joke, but when the Nazis came to power, they had a Nazi newspaper called Der Stürmer. And Der Stürmer was constantly writing articles about how the Jews control the world, and the Jews control the banks, and the Jews control this, and the Jews control that. So there were 2 Jews sitting on a park bench in Nazi Germany in the early days. And one Jew is reading the Jewish paper, and the other one is reading Der Stürmer, which was attacking the Jews, saying they control the world. And so the one reading the Jewish newspaper said to the Jew who was reading the Nazi paper, "Why are you reading the Nazi paper?" He said, "Well, you know what? The Jewish paper is crying and complaining how miserable things are for us. And I'm reading the Nazi newspaper, which says how wonderful things are for the Jews, that we control the world, we control the US, we control Germany, we control Russia. So it's a lot of nonsense." I will say, however, that it is interesting. I don't know how good it is, but the fact that Witkoff and Kirshner are right-hand men for the president, and he has Jewish grandchildren, maybe it says something. But Israel does not control the United States, and the Jews don't either, because the Jews are Democrats, most of them, so they're against the president. So it's like Jews are basically a pain in the butt for the right-wing Christians and right-wing Jews. I'm a right-wing Jew, in case you didn't know.
Is that a wrap?
Okay, dear, I apologize for being late.